How do you make money as a content creator? I ask myself that every day. It depends on what you do. If you're a Twitch streamer, let's say you're a Twitch streamer, people can subscribe. I think one of the most helpful things is always subscriptions. Maybe some people give bits or gifted subs or, you know, they donate or whatever. That's all cool. But the main thing is just having people actively subscribe. That is super important. Ads do play on your Twitch channel, but unless you're at like 10K viewers, it's not that significant of an amount, but it's there and you get your Twitch revenue. There's a lot of people that just get that and try to live off of that. A lot of people, the next thing they try is they try to make some merch. It does not make you much money for the time you put in and for what you pay to get the art made for it, because you know you're paying commercial fees on the art, etc. Right? Like all the overhead to produce the merch takes most of that profit. And then whatever company you're having produce the merch also needs to pay their workers, so they get a cut to cover them. So yeah, your actual profit from it is usually pretty low, but it's something, and you didn't have to sit there and stream to make that $3. So it's cool to have that little extra that just shows up, even if it's a little bit. And then you can do sponsors, which can be very huge for people, which is why I made a whole company to help people find sponsorships and help publishers find better ways to sponsor people, because I was like, this is so significant in this space. It's so needed, and it's literally the best marketing that like game companies especially could do, or like any company nowadays. Marketing something through an influencer and getting their real opinion on it is so much more valuable than like random ass commercials and ads that you get thrown at you all the time. Like right now, that's all people want to trust, is hearing someone else talk about a thing, you know? So yeah, I feel like that's the most important thing. But you can't really get sponsors right now easily until you're like a bigger creator, which is really, it just kind of locks smaller creators out of that as an option. So that's why that was part of the point of me trying to make the company that I made, was trying to make a pathway for that a bit easier, because I don't think there's any reason why they shouldn't be able to get sponsors even when they're a smaller creator. It's just the way the system works. It's very hard for companies to do that and not lose a bunch of money on the process, right? Handling all the legal and all these little things. So that's why I was trying to make something to bridge that gap a bit, because I feel like if a lot of smaller streamers had access to sponsorships in the way a lot of the larger streamers do, at the same kind of calculations of rates and things, just, you know, less because they have smaller CCV or whatever it is, I think a lot of them could make that jump to full time if they just had the occasional sponsor come through. It's just so hard when you're that small of a creator to get them. But that can be a really significant source of revenue for people and make like living off of content possible for a lot of them, especially YouTubers too. You don't really get a lot of money per YouTube view. You really don't. But if you can put the occasional 30, 60-second ad read thing on your video, well then now you actually can make it lucrative enough that you can pay for your time to be doing this, you know? So that's kind of my goal, is to make that more accessible to people, because I don't know, the way it's done was always really archaic. So that was a lot of my goal there. Also, Shadow Wizard, you asked like 50% of the money or less with the merch? Less. Usually the creator cut at the end of the day, if you take the revenue, right? Someone pays $40 for an item. Let's get rid of shipping. They pay $40 for an item. The creator's not going to get 50% of that $40. They're going to get less in most cases. It depends on the company. It depends on the item that you're making, because some items are a lot more expensive than others to produce. If the item is just bigger, heavier, it costs more to ship from the manufacturer to the distribution center. So that's also a cost, etc., etc. This is why a lot of people do acrylic standees rather than entire figures, because the cost of making a figure is insane. You know, just ridiculous, as it needs to be, because they're always like very well made and hand painted, and you know, and they weigh a lot, right? It's no one's fault. That's just how it is. But then if you do an acrylic standee, you can ship them flat. They're kind of light. You know what I mean? Like, it's just so much more doable, physically doable. Wish I could make figures. It'd be so fun. There's so few avenues for it. Yeah. I mean, the problem is you have to have a 3D modeler, like an artist, go through and model out what it's going to be. Those people are very expensive. There's not a lot of people who can 3D sculpt that well to make a finely detailed figure like that. There are plenty, but they're expensive. You get that done. Then you figure out in the 3D programs how you're going to paint it. Then you have to start producing them, which, you know, depends on what type of material they're using. Sometimes it's injection molded. Sometimes, you know, all these different things. That's expensive, but they make the parts. Then there's always a workshop where there's a bunch of people putting them together and hand painting them in most cases for like full size like anime figures. And that is like, you're paying for a person's hands having painted that. That is expensive. So that's that's a lot of the full size figures you see are hand painted. Now some of them are just kind of printed with color on the outside and put together a certain way, but you can't get certain levels of definition and detail done. Or sometimes they're base color printed and then there's still someone hand painting over that to add detail and stuff. But that it just takes so much time. It's so much time and so much labor, you know. So that's why so few people do figures, because it's a huge process. And that's why they take a long time. When you order them, you often order them like a year ahead of time, sometimes more, from a lot of these big companies. Even the biggest figure companies cannot get a figure made in a month. It takes a really long time. Even Raw Garage 3D figurines have we sent it down too? Yeah. I was talking to a company a while back about like, what if we did garage kits, you know? What if we did some unpainted ones too? And they were like, we could do that. There's less of a market for people who would buy it, but we could do that. And they were like, but it doesn't actually lower the cost that much, because they were showing how much of, like the sanding and all the shit you gotta do. And I was like, oh, okay, so it doesn't actually change that much. Got it. Got it. It's we're not really saving much time. Understood. But yeah, it's just tough, man.